Today I'm going to show you how to change inner and outer tie rods on a Jeep Cherokee from 2014 to 2018. And also, I'm not changing the outer ones because the customer doesn't need it, but I wanted to make a video to show people what all it consists of. What you're going to want to do is, this is the lug style type. You can buy lug hangers from, or you can rent them from O'Reilly's or AutoZone, but there's a lip on it right here that'll hold the tire up, so that's really not necessary. And then if I could get the camera in here, there is a 18mm washer slash nut combo that you take off over here. This one's an aftermarket one because this one was in a collision. Yours won't look like it. It won't have a grease fitting, assuming it's factory. Before you break this loose with the press, you want to knock this nut loose. I use the crescent wrench. It always works the easiest for me. And then just a little bonk with a hammer and that'll knock it loose. And you don't want to smash into the steering knuckle on this model because it's aluminum, but if you put the press on the lip right here, you'll be able to press it out like that. Or you can do the traditional manner of knocking the stud with a hammer. Just depends on what you want to do. Okay, so since this side wasn't a factory one and it's come apart recently, well, somewhat recently, the inner bushing actually didn't come out with it, but the ones that were factory over there definitely did. But as you can see, you might be able to hear it. I'm not sure if you can through the video, but definitely some wobble in there. And the easiest way I found, because there's a little tab in there, I'll edit a circle over it just so you can see, is to use a long flathead screwdriver, and then you can just bonk the end of the flathead with the hammer, and that'll knock this piece right out of there without giving you a hassle. And then of course you're just going to want to remove this right here. Okay, I got that removed, and you should just be able to pull the boot just like that. Now, depending on how old yours is, this side is already free from the inner one itself, but there is these tapered edges. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it, but there's these tapered edges here, and I was able to stick a crescent wrench right here, and then you can just use one in this arch area here, and then you can use it to break it loose like that. And then once you get to that point, you're going to want to hold the inner tie rod, and then you want to count the twists that it takes to remove the outer one, so you can keep your alignment as close as you can. The outer tie rod counted the rotations, and it took 17 for me. Might be different for you, but now we have to use a tool to remove this. Simplest solution, DIY wise for you guys, would be this inner tie rod puller. You can pick it up at AutoZone. Slides up in here, and then you use a 14mm wrench to tighten it, and then you can use a 3/8 extension and ratchet and hook it in here, and then you'll be able to rotate the inner tie rod loose. Okay, so it's hard to film me doing it, but I just wanted to show that I actually got it loose with this tool. So now I can just spin it out. Now, they have an off-road package tie rod, and I believe that's for the 4x4, but you'll want to check with your VIN number before you get this torn apart, because there is two different tie rods, and then there's a left and a right different outer tie rod, but the inner ones are the same on both sides, just depending on if you have the off-road or non-off-road version. And the new ones come with thread lockers, so they won't thread in as easily as the old ones do. But then once you have it bottomed out, as far as it'll go, these inner tie rods, they don't have a torque spec on all data from what I seen. They were kind of just like remove the tie rod and replace it, so they weren't very helpful on that front. But judging by how easily it was to remove it, I'm going to guess that it's probably 80 foot-pounds or so. That's what it felt like anyways. After you get that as tight as you can, you'll want to take your boot and put it up in here. When I have two normal zip ties, one zip tie wasn't enough, so I put two of them together. I'm gonna cut off the ends and just zip tie this on there as good as I can. Once you get your zip ties on the back of there, or your metal zip ties, whichever you got, you're gonna want to put your clamp back on, and then you're going to want to put your jam nut on. Make sure you get all that back on before you put your jam nut on, and then you're going to want to thread it in far enough to where you can count your turns, and then you're just going to want to put your new one in. You get this back into place just for now until you get it to the alignment shop. You're going to want to tighten the jam nut down. You're going to want to put the 18mm nut back on the stud on the bottom. And finally, you want to put your wheel back on. And like I said before, you can just balance it on that lip so you don't have to get wheel hanger studs. And then you're going to want to torque the wheels to 100 foot-pounds.